welcome everyone for another episode of the Parisi podcast, Zoom edition, Zoomies style. I told our pod producer and the rest of the Parisi team around the holidays there's probably going to be some heavy Zoom. So the good news is it means that our audio, for those that were having audio problems, we have fixed those when we do in person or on our camera shoots. But the Zoom audio and the Zoom video typically comes out really well. So if you enjoy the audio and the experience of Zoom recordings, just let us know. Say, hey guys, you haven't figured out the rest of the audio. Keep it at Zoom. We'll listen to you. But we have some really cool guests because we do always try to do these in person. I just told our guest today that I will be seeing him in person. I know when, but he doesn't yet, but it's okay. We'll be doing this round 2 in person. So round 2 is unofficially scheduled. Our guest doesn't know it yet, but we are welcoming Luke Rapaport, Hard T Rapaport. Hopefully I said that right, to the pod. Luke, what's up, man?
How's it going? It's all good over here. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm always impressed when I can make it to a scheduled Zoom meeting on time. And I'm always impressed with people such as yourself when you ask, hey, is there any questions you want to send over? And I say, no, just go with it. Like, I got this. And people trust. The blind trust goes, I feel it. And I respect it. And it goes a long way. I appreciate it. So I wanted to talk and start with this. I start everyone with this, the typical questions. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you do it? And then we're going to dive hard into sports performance today.
All right. Like Casey said, I'm Luke Rapaport. Let's see. Where do I start? I guess I'll start with this. Grew up playing soccer mainly, played throughout college. And then after college, I got into the sports performance, strength and conditioning field. And it had to do with my major. Like, I was a fitness and wellness major. So a lot of the stuff I was learning, like in my classes, I was able to kind of like use on myself and kind of give myself that advantage in terms of like athleticism. And it's just like when I graduated, it was just something I wanted to do for other players, whether it be, soccer, whatever sport. But yes, that's pretty much what I do now. Strength and conditioning coach. Currently work at Team Moljo. That's this little logo right here. We're located in Sherbrooke, New York. So if anyone is in the area looking to get after it, that's where I'm at. So yeah.
I like it. And I know, well, I've met you before, but we both hail from the astute SUNY Plattsburgh, the most prestigious academic institution in the United States. SUNY Plattsburgh, look it up, real upstate New York. Luke, are you from New York originally?
Yeah, I'm from New York, from like Upper Westchester, Yorktown Heights, specifically Mohegan Lake.
I'm going to bring back a question that I ask everyone from New York. Where does upstate New York start?
Poughkeepsie.
Okay, just wondering, have you ever asked that question to people from New York?
It's a massive topic of debate.
It's the best topic.
So like, it gets brought up. Like when I was at Plattsburgh, half the kids there are from Long Island. So, we're always having that conversation. They always say above the city, but I think it's Poughkeepsie, starts at Poughkeepsie and above.
I was once told anything above Yonkers is upstate. And that was hilarious. I know I say SUNY Plattsburgh, I just call it the real upstate. And then Western New York is its own abyss. It's just different. Anything past like I-90 West is just its own thing. That was a quick aside because I normally end with dumb little questions like that, but it is a very important topic to bring up.
I agree.
But so fitness, wellness, leadership, you jump into the actual, I'll say, practicality of strength conditioning. What was the first kind of, I don't know, I want to say like first thoughts, the first kind of like dabble as you get out of the academic and into the actual coaching? What was your initial thoughts? Just making that switch from student to this is my career now. I'm getting paid to do this. Like, what was that process, that adjustment like for you?
Yeah. So in school, like it really is all about like the content of what you're learning, just like pass the class, get the grades, that kind of thing. And then once you're out, like kind of like in the field, it's like you have to learn how to apply all that.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
When I first started, that was probably like the biggest, I don't even want to say hurdle, but just like biggest change, I'd say. It's like I had a really good base of like, like what goes into programming, when to do certain things, just like, the kind of like the science behind like the strength and conditioning, but then actually applying that, you kind of got to take a step back and just like like each person that you're training is like they're their own individual. So like everything right out of the book isn't going to be like right necessarily for each person. So I'd say like, being in school, focusing on learning things, and then being like actually coaching people. It's like you got to learn how to apply it. Like the science is way less important after, like, once you're done with school, because like, you talk to, say you got like a high school athlete, right? And like, they ask you a question about anything, right? And then like instantly, like my head goes to like explain the science behind it. It's like, whatever I say, they might not even comprehend what I'm saying. Like they might not know the certain terminology. So like it really doesn't matter as much once you get out. It's just like how to make what I learned in school digestible to kids or athletes who just like, don't really know about it.
They don't know anything about it, and that's I've always been enamored, and it's obviously it's a question we get on the Parisi side a lot. We have coaches that go through our certification, and they come from all walks of life. They can be fresh from college, they can be in college, they can be second career type folks, and that is always to me the most important thing is you're going to learn theory and education, and that's amazing. But when push comes to shove and you are on the training floor with an athlete, a small group, a team, like that only really, it's crazy to say, but it only goes so far. Or at least I feel that it only goes
Yeah.
so far because your ability to apply it and your ability to be like you just said, like they might not even comprehend what you're saying. So your ability to be the filter is what I feel you can't learn in school. And even in internships, like if you, I don't know if you ever did an internship, but it can be incredibly, it almost can make it worse if you do an internship and you're not able to actually coach
Right.
and make the mistakes. Because there's, I mean, I've been in the industry for 15 years. I still make mistakes almost daily. So, like if I don't make a mistake, like I literally made a mistake on Monday. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I'm still doing this. And it's just one
Right.
of those
Right.
things where you get better at rebounding from those mistakes, but early in your career, or you make that transition from student to coach, it almost seems like it can be a major deterrent, right? And just devastate. Oh my god, I can't believe I messed up this warm up. I forgot to do this. Like we used to have a joke. You would go through the old school Parisi warm up was 30 movements, and we would come off the training floor and we would look at each other like, yeah, nailed every movement. And someone would go, oh, did you do backwards cycle? And be like, ah, shit, we messed that up. We forgot it
Right.
still. So the mistakes are a part of the learning process. But I'm always curious just how, like I don't want to say like a younger coach, because how long have you been quote unquote coaching? Like, what's your timeline? 3 years, 4 years, five
It's like
years?
3, 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I'd say
huge. I
four.
mean,
Four.
you surviving the first, and this is the kind of the next question, right? Like surviving the first 3 years in sports performance or just as a personal trainer is really hard. Like I, I know everyone probably would say this about any industry, like the first 3 years, like you're learning, you're doing this, that. I don't know if people listening to this probably have an idea, but your first 3 years as a personal trainer, performance coach, are incredibly difficult because you largely in this field you only get paid when you sell training or if you have clients. You're trying to build clients, and new trainers typically aren't as great as seasoned clients just on the communication levels, right? We say like we regurgitate science and you have to kind of build that personality, and there's a lot of pressure to fill your paycheck but also perform in your job, but then also grow and learn because your education only goes so far. What has been the biggest beneficiary? What was, looking back now, like hindsight question, the last 3 years, 4 years, what was your biggest area of growth and how did you navigate those first pretty tough 3 to 4 years? It's a loaded
Yeah. Great
question. It's
question.
a loaded question. Take it
Let's
anywhere
see.
you want.
Yeah. I'll start with biggest area of growth. I'd say is definitely just becoming more confident in myself as a coach. Because like I'm like, like I said before, like I was on the athlete side like forever, like being a soccer player. So the biggest thing was just like kind of being more confident as a coach. Like when I first started, like just like how I would say certain things, like I was unsure a lot of the times. But then, you kind of realize that like the people you're talking to, like they don't really have like an expectation necessarily of of like kind of what you're saying. So like you could really say anything to some people, and it's
Yeah,
just
and they don't know what's wrong
like,
or if it's right. They're
yeah,
just
it's
going by
like
what you
could be
say.
right. Exactly. They're like, oh yeah, yeah, sounds good. So it's like just like getting more confident in saying like just like coaching, just more confident in coaching. So like I'll give you an example. Um, like when I first started training, like my first year, honestly, like when I interned at Team Moljo for like the summer, so I'll start with that. But we like coach a team over the summer, and I'd have to like explain the warm up, and my tone is just like kind of like the same throughout, like just like talking like this, explaining what we have to do, blah blah blah, this and that, and just like kind of learning like how to use my voice. Um, and yeah, I'd say building confidence as a coach is probably like one of the biggest things. And what was the other part to that question? There was another part.
Just how you survived the first 3 years, right? Because it's incredibly difficult. And maybe you can speak to maybe it wasn't and why it might not have been difficult for you. But I find that most you probably have seen it. People in your graduating class, like how many are still doing it, right? Like the
Right. Yeah.
burnout rate, the churn. I don't even want to say burnout rate. It's not the right word, but the churn rate in this industry of just people who start. They realize it's really difficult. It can be mildly inconsistent at times, especially on the sports performance realm. And they just bounce or they get a part-time gig doing something else and they struggle mightily in the field. What worked well for you navigating those first 3-4 years?
Yeah. Honestly, like when I first got out of college and like started working at the gym I currently work at, like after the first few months, like I knew this is like what I wanted to do. Like I love it. I love making people better, like specifically athletes. So all of there was like hard times where like, a bunch of people are sick, a bunch of people are away. Like I was barely training, but it's just like, I always just came back to like I knew this is what I wanted to do. I know it's what I want to do in the future. So like, I don't know, just, I guess kind of just like having the belief, I guess, of just like, I know this is it. So it's, there's going to be hard times, there's going to be good times. So it's just like, sticking with it, kind of like anything else. Kind of like
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, I mean, belief before ability, right? Like that's if you can believe it, you can manifest it. I think that is it sounds maybe cliche, but I do find that if and it's no coincidence to me that you say, your biggest growth area as a coach was your confidence as a coach, and then your belief in being a coach is what's got you through the first, I'll say like the first chunk of your career, right? Because the first 3 years are insane and then it really does level out for like the next 10 and then I can't speak past that because that's where I'm at, but once you really get your footing and you know what you're doing and you have some stability, like it does kind of magnify a little bit. You find your different niche and you're really able to like lay in some roots into the industry. But I'm not surprised that those go hand in hand, right? Finding your confidence as a coach and then believing in yourself as a coach. And I wish more professionals really did that, like just believed in themselves, like, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm going to invest the time. And what did you say? Good times, hard times? I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Gonna be
like
good
that.
times, gonna be bad times.
Yeah,
It's like
I like
it's like
that.
everything. It's like everything.
Uh, what did you find that it was a benefit to you to come into the industry as an athlete? I was a
Yes.
non-athlete. I came in as a non-athlete. I was like I still think I am the most average looking human being ever. Right? Like you came 4 years of college sports
Yeah.
and that just talking the talk. Like how do you think that helped you?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely helped. Because like I now know like both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of the things that like my athletes deal with, I've dealt with. So I think it gives me like a really good insight. Like if they have like some kind of weird, like random problem that may not even necessarily have to do with training. It's like I've been there. Like if they're like, oh, like I just failed this test. And like if I fail the next one, like I might not be able to play because of like the
Yeah.
grades or whatever. So it's just like knowing like the stuff that they deal with, I've dealt with, and like I can kind of give them like a good idea of where to go, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like just like being on both sides, I'd say it was like the biggest benefit.
Yeah, I mean I can't speak to it. Like I said, I was a non-athlete. Like I still think I am as a very average non-athletic individual. And then getting into sports performance, like I think it took out my bias. Like, do you find that you have like as a soccer player, right? And like things that may have worked well for you. And I find this with some coaches and some not. And there's no right or wrong. I don't think it's good or bad, but did you find that you came in with certain biases of like, I know this works, you should do this. Like I played 4 years of soccer. Like, did you find that that was the case talking to some of the aspiring athletes that you were working with?
Maybe like a little bit in the beginning for sure, but then as I just like kept coaching and kept just seeing more and like learning more stuff, I was just
Yeah.
like, all right, like there's a lot of different ways to get to the same goal, and like being married to like one specific exercise or movement, like there's so many ways to get to the goal. And like in strength and conditioning, I think that like only doing one thing or being like, this is the thing that works, I'm only going to do this, I think that's like kind of dumb and almost arrogant,
Isn't
because
that
like,
wild? That's like the number one debate you see in every industry or in this industry is this is the way. And I feel like that's
right,
the
right,
first like maturity moment for a coach. You can get to the end result 100 different ways.
so many ways. Like it's really, there's so many. It's like, and then like what it really comes down to, in my opinion, is like, yeah, there's a lot of different ways, but it's like, which way is going to work best for said athlete that's in front
Yeah.
of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like being able to figure out or weed out, like, what's going to be good, what's going to be bad, like, what are they going to get the most out of, like that kind of thing.
Do you do a lot of like primarily are you doing a lot of one-on-one training? Or do you
Um,
find yourself doing like more groups? Like what would you say is the ratio of how you coach people?
in terms of like one-on-ones to
One-on-one to
groups,
small group to teams. Yeah. What is your breakdown?
it's pretty, it definitely more groups, but not by a
Oh,
lot.
cool.
In terms of athletes, it tends to be more groups. And then teams, I'd say teams is like kind of seasonal.
Yep.
So like I'll train like a bunch of soccer teams like over the winter and through the spring and over the summer and stuff like that. So it is kind of like it does change, but I'd say
Yeah.
more so groups.
Cool. The only reason I ask is I feel like that aha moment of how it works for that individual is something that like I primarily coach one-on-one at this point in my career. Like all my clients are typically one-on-one. Very rarely are they in a small group. So you find that aha moment relatively quickly because you have the luxury of I'm just working with you, you're with me. I can now progress you based off what you're doing in your life and your training and your extracurriculars, whatever. In a group, and this was what I found early in Parisi, was it's hard, and I don't know if you've experienced this. It's that balance of I need to take 10 kids, 10 athletes through a training session and have them benefit, but also I have 10 kids that are going to be very different. So you almost have to find, and this is a lame reference, it's a math reference, like the least common denominator. Like what's the skill that we can all work on to improve? And that's kind of
Right.
the second aha moment is like simplicity doesn't always sell, but simplicity works. And I realized like when I bounce between like one-on-one, it's super easy. Yeah, you're here. Let's do this. How are we going to get you to your end goal? But working in that team fashion, it was harder for me to get to that point of, okay, we just need to get better. And what does that look like for this group? Like treating the group as an individual or like a group as like, we're working on acceleration, we're working on change of direction, we're working on max velocity, whatever it might be. And I'm always curious how other coaches get to that moment because I do think we all do at some point. We talk about like the this is the only way to do it. That works until it doesn't, right? And I think that happens
Right,
more
right.
times than not. But yeah, that's why I ask. I don't have any. There's no question there. I just just talking out loud at this point. I told you, Luke. There's no notes for this. We're off the cuff. We're just ripping. And I have like, I shouldn't
I
say
love
I
it.
have a list. No, I have like a checklist of like I'm looking at it right now. A checklist of like things that I wanted to talk to you about. And I want to get into your experience with Apex, and I want to bring it from two
Mm.
points here. Before we talk about Apex and training and all that stuff, I want to talk about why is it important to you, or do you think it is important? I should word it that way. Do you think it is important that performance coaches train for something as professionals in this industry?
Um, yeah, I do. I'll say yes. You kind of mentioned it before, when we were talking about like how I was used to be an athlete, but like kind of like walking, what is it, walking the talk or walking the
Yeah,
walk,
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of thing.
absolutely. Talk
Like,
the talk, walk the walk.
you you demand so much from like your athletes, and then you turn around and like you don't do it yourself. Like I think, you want to be able to, show them like, I do this. Like I also do this
Yeah,
too.
hell yeah. The
It's
old
not
man can
just
still
like
strap him up, dude. Hell
exactly,
yeah. Hell
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say that, it's just I think it's important for like, the people you train to be like, oh wow, like he does it too. Like look at
He
this
still
guy.
does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had periods of both, right? Where when I first got out of college, like I said, I was non-athlete. I just kind of did a little bit of everything. Like I joined an Olympic weightlifting club and I kind of dabbled with Olympic weightlifting. And then I was working at a Parisi speed school. So I went hard and trying to like max out the scale of like our athlete assessment. So like training for sports performance and speed. And then there was a period where I just like did bodybuilding because it was just different. Like you just try a bunch of different things. And then there was a period where I
Yeah,
didn't do
totally.
really much of anything. I had kids and I was like, oh, I'm just existing at this point. And then having in the last like 3 years gotten back into training for stuff, I've noticed, and I'm curious how you feel about this. I have never been more invested into the training side of personal training, like just talking programming, talking to clients about where they want their program to go, and just kind of like talking shop, so to speak. Not even like coaching, right? Just talking about
Mhm.
like the X's and O's of programming. I've never been more invested in that than when I am actually training competitively for something. I say competitively pretty loose, like going to an event and like
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
I
like
get it.
like just doing the thing. Have you found that like when you're actively training for something that you just like give a shit more about the industry or like about your career? Is that maybe that's like a blunt way to say it, but just you have that extra skin in the game, so to speak.
I'd say it definitely like motivates myself. I don't know if I'd necessarily say like I always care. Like I love programming. It is
Yeah.
like regardless if it's for myself, if it's for someone else, like that's like honestly probably like one of my favorite parts about the industry is just like creating programs. I don't know why. I love it. Um, but no, I always just like to learn about like new ways to program or like new exercises, whatever. I wouldn't say like makes me more invested in my job. I always like what I'm doing. But I'd say it definitely gets me more invested in my own programming, like for sure. So I was super, super invested in programming like when I was still in college. Just like because like we'd get like the program from our strength and conditioning coach, and I'd like look at it, like, just like
Break
critically
it
think
down.
about like yeah
Yeah.
what he put in there, and I'd be like, hey, it seems good. Like I didn't know. I was still
Yeah.
learning everything. But I found it so interesting. I was like trying to learn everything I could about like the program I was given. And then when I was done with school and I started working, kind of like what you said, I didn't really necessarily care about what I was doing so much. Like I was just kind of, like I was like when I first got out, I was like bodybuilding a lot. Then I was like messing around with kettlebells for a little bit. Um, and then I kind of like got back in to like the sports performance side because like that's like all I did throughout college because of soccer. So I
Yep.
don't know. I
Yep.
don't want to say I was like burnt out on it, but I just like wanted to do something else, like just
No,
train
it's
differently.
like what you just said. There's more than one way to
Yeah,
skin a cat, so to speak. There's more than one way to find the goal. And there's so many different ways to train, styles, if you
yeah,
will, right? Like
yeah,
experience it all. Absolutely. How did that transition to Apex? Let's get into it,
yeah.
baby. Let's
Apex.
talk
So
about it.
that
Start
so
what is Apex and how did you hear about it?
right.
Let's start there.
Okay, so Apex is basically, in my opinion, it's like the athlete competition, right?
Sure.
So like you see
Absolutely.
things like High Rocks, for example, is like, they say it's like an athlete competition, although it's extremely endurance based. But like this
All
Apex, it's
endurance.
like
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. But like you look at Apex, and Apex is just it's basically I just about like when my clients ask me about it, when people ask me about it, I tell them it's like the NFL combine for everybody, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like we're doing things like in the competition itself, it's 40-yard dash, um, max effort, med ball throw over your head for distance, vertical jump, broad jump. So that's like all power stuff right there, power speed, that kind of thing. And then it goes into max reps bench press at 225. and then a trap bar deadlift. In the most recent competition, it was 365 pounds for just as many reps as you could in a minute. But some people were just like going for the whole minute, which was disgusting. So they're bumping up the weight to 405 for as many reps as possible. So that'll be interesting. Those are two strength things. And then after all that, you got to run a mile. So it kind of encapsulates like I don't want to say like everything, but like most things of what it means to be an athlete. So like,
Yeah, absolutely.
power, strength, endurance, that kind of thing. And the way I found out about it was through Instagram. Like I was just, I post on Instagram about, strength and conditioning, sports performance, and just like, I guess like my algorithm just kind of blessed me. They're like, all right, like, look at this, look at this. Like this sounds right up your alley. So I saw it, through an Instagram account. The guy's name's Tim Riley. He's the one who like started the whole competition and everything.
Yeah, shout out to Riley. Open invite to come on the pod, Tim Riley. If you see this,
he's
open
awesome.
invite to come on the pod.
But he just started posting about it, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like Apex athlete. I was like, this sounds fucking cool. Like I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess like my algorithm was just like, all right, like Austin, Texas strength and conditioning coaches. So like I got like Tim Riley popped up on my feed. There's other people from the area popping up on my feed. Everyone's talking about Apex. I was like, all right. I'm like, right when they drop it, I was like, I'm just gonna sign up. So I was like, why not? And it was like honestly like one of the best. Honestly, it's the only event I've done, like athletic event I've done aside from soccer, and it was a lot of fun. And like there's some absolute freaks there, like athletic monsters. So
I bet
it was cool to see like some just beast athletes.
You get like the former Division I running back that shows up and you're like, oh, this is just a completely different game now.
Yeah, like the guy who won was I think 7-year NFL veteran.
Yeah,
it's absolute monster,
different beast. So it's scored. Is that so like someone can win, like it's got different scoring, or is it like strongman where you like win events and you get points for your placement, or is it just like an algorithm like based off of your like you jump this high you get this many points, you run this fast you get this many points? How do you know how they score it?
Yeah, right, it's the second one you said. So it's more like algorithm based.
Sure.
Not necessarily based on like your placement, but I think it's based on more of like a spectrum of scoring per event kind of thing. I don't know like exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure that was the deal.
The oddly enough, the Parisi the Parisi performance evaluation is like that. It's like an algorithm. Like if you do 20 chin-ups, you get this many points. If you do 8 chin-ups, you get this many points.
Right.
So as long as you're putting a number in or a result, you're going to get a point total. Then you get a total point total, like a total at the end. And that tends to level it out, right? Like based off of like gender, age, whatever, however you want to categorize it. You guys probably, I think Team Moljo has something very similar.
Pretty much exactly.
So that makes sense. How has your training, did it change, or how has it changed since you've really jumped into, because you do post a ton of awesome content. Luke will share his Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's like your name at the end, how you can get more Luke, but he does post a ton of content of sports performance and talking sports performance. How has your training changed, if at all, since you've really because I'm assuming you're going to compete again? You seem like a former I'll say an athlete. I don't want to say former athlete, but an athlete. Like going once is just getting your toes in it. Now you know what you're trying to beat the second time. That's why you do it the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
how's your training changed or evolved?
Yeah, so kind of going back to before, I mentioned like right when I got out of school, I was trying different things, and then I eventually came back around to like the sports performance thing. So I was it was probably like 4-ish months before they like officially announced like Apex, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I got back into like, kind of like training to be an athlete for sports performance. And like I was lucky I did, because I'd say maybe 2 months into that of training like that, I found out what Apex was. And then maybe like a month later, they're like, all right, Apex, like it's official, like we're doing it October 26th, like the date was out there and everything, you could sign up. And once I saw like what all the events were, I was like, all right, So like I was already doing some sports performance stuff, and then I kind of just specified it more to like actually getting better at specific events as opposed to just like overall general athleticism kind of thing. So I had a little bit of a head start with that, but then once I signed up for the competition and knew what was involved, my training definitely switched a little more towards like what the events were. So I'll give you an example. Prior to finding out about the competition, I wasn't really doing any like sprint work necessarily, like a lot of like, resisted sled, like sled sprints, stuff like that, just like, short little sprints. But then when I found out, there's 40-yard dash in that, I was like, all right, like I gotta get a little bit further with my running here. So I had like a whole day, like just for sprinting, and so I needed it. Like that was like the thing. I was like, I haven't done this in like I don't know how long, so I got to just like kind of make a whole day for it. So yeah, I guess it changed to being more based towards what the events were in the competition.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting, like talking to athletes or like working with athletes or even talking to coaches that do things, I don't want to say like athletically, but like compete in things. There's always this period of I'm ready, right? Like you have a base of fitness, and then you take that general base of fitness and you get more specific to the event, right? Like but there's and it's like we talk with our athletes, like it's a lot easier to get in shape if you never fall out of shape, right? So
Right.
like you had that base of fitness, you had that base of sports performance, and then you're like, oh, this is what the test is. Now I just get more specific. And it's so funny how general to specific, like I just talked about this on the last podcast I did. It was talking about how I use the Parisi Speed School methodology during 2 ultra marathon preps. And completely different. Like you think sports performance, you think sprinting, not running 50 miles, but it's a sport and there's sports performance on any type of spectrum. And it is always come down to this fact of like, you start general and then you get more specific. And that's like day one, and bringing it back full circle, right? Like in the classroom, you learn like the general principles of sports performance. That's like number 1 and 2 on the whiteboard. General to
Right.
specific, general to specific, microcycles, macrocycles, general to specific. And it's just funny how it does translate to some of the most simplistic concepts and ideas. But I thought that was really cool. I was stoked that you were sharing your experiences at Apex and the different things that you did, and that training does seem like it just fits well, right? Like if you're a sports performance coach, you should check it out, and you should compete because
100%. Yeah.
that's the best way to learn. Like how much better has your training with athletes been since you were training like an athlete for this?
Yeah, it's definitely been better.
It just, I
Definitely
mean,
been better.
even if the content in the training doesn't change, like the level of intensity that a coach brings to the training session, knowing like you do it, you're literally doing it. You know what 100% effort looks like. You know what good intent in an exercise looks like. You're just a better coach, right? Like
Right.
bringing it back full circle again to like why it's beneficial to train for something. Big mentor of mine, Chad Coy, is one of our master coaches at the Parisi Speed School. Like he has been beating that drum forever. He's a master's level strongman. The dude is one of the strongest human beings probably in the world. He might not tell you that, but he arguably is. He's a top 1% strongest person in the world. The dude is just a monster. And training with Chad is one of my favorite things to do. Like I'll get up at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning to go train with him before like different Parisi conferences and stuff, just to watch it, just to see it. The
Yeah.
preparation, the meticulous, like recording everything, like the training that it goes. It would be really interesting. This is a random aside. I don't know if you think, you've actually done it, I'm really curious to see if like rather than increasing the weight of the trap bar deadlift, if they went velocity based and they had athletes, you had to stay in a certain speed realm for the most amount of reps. If that makes, I don't even know if that
Yeah,
makes
no, that makes sense.
sense. But rather than just
Yeah.
being like, we're gonna up the weight, like at some point, I just think it would be fun, like because there's still gonna be mutants that can take 405 on a trap bar for a full minute.
Oh, yeah,
That's
for sure.
that's gonna
For sure.
happen.
For
And I
sure.
don't, I think of just what would be really interesting is like, what is your power production or your velocity, bar velocity over time? Like someone moving 365 for 36 reps at a certain velocity, like that's freaky. That would also absolutely destroy your central nervous system. But it sounds like, how sore were you after this?
Oh my, pretty banged up. Like, I wasn't like not the worst ever, but like the thing that really got me was, you know, I'm sure this got everybody because everyone was talking about it. But like, you know, you do that trap bar deadlift max reps, then you get like a little break. You know, you hit bench press max reps, like, oh yeah, great break, and then you got to
That's a
go run a
brutal
mile.
back to back. That's a
Then you got to go run a
brutal
mile.
back to back, and then
It's like
finish with a mile.
you demolish your legs, you demolish your whole body, and it's like, all right, go run a mile.
I don't, unless you've done a max, even if it's not a minute, but and I don't know many that would just willingly want to do a max set of deadlifts.
It's horrible.
That is diabolical in its own way. And your body, it's like if you came inside from the cold and you were like shivering, like your central nervous system, like you're just like trembling. Like you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why are my arms shaking? Why is my lats shaking? I was doing a trap bar deadlift. It's yeah, that's wild. I didn't know that was for max reps or you said most reps in a minute.
Yeah, most reps in a minute. Yeah.
Dude, how did you train for that? Did you just try to do most reps in a minute?
So I did it a couple times, and it would like I was just like, so I don't, maybe like a month out, I like kind of put it into the program a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, like I'll just do one day, like, so I'd like 2 like lower body days, and I was like, all right, on the second day, you know, I'll just like, you know, work up to like whatever the working weight was, and I'll just like do one set of just like max reps. And I found that I was absolutely destroying my body. So like trying to come back and train like 2 days later was difficult. And I was like, yeah, this is probably hurting more than it's actually helping because like, you know, I would do this and then like I wouldn't be able to be at like, you know, max intent for like a sprint. Then it's like, you know, why am I doing a sprint at that point if I can't even get to a max speed? So I did it like twice and I was like, all right, this is actually kind of stupid. Like I should just train for strength and then hopefully, you know, that transfers over to just going for as long as I can. So I would just I switched out the max reps thing. I would just do you know, a little bit more weight than 365 for like I think 5 or whatever.
I think that is maybe one of the biggest lessons any performance coach can learn is just when you brushing against like a max central nervous system effort, like just brushing against max effort, just what that does to your body and how hard it is to come back to another exercise that involves some type of max capacity. I don't, you know, whatever it's like aerobic capacity, nervous system, like whatever word you want to use. When you touch max effort, like really actually do it, destroyed.
Yeah.
You can't do any, like you're just, you try, you're like, man, you like do pogo jumps or something. You're like, this just feels like I've got mud on, like I'm just going through it right now.
Totally.
Yeah, it's something, and it's bizarre because you're like, man, I thought my body could do this. Like you'll feel fine until you need your body to do something like really fast or really heavy or just have to actually like work in a synchronous fashion, and your body's like, nah, dude, not today. Not today.
Yeah, not today.
It's not gonna happen.
Maybe next time.
Okay, I got one for you because you put up, speaking of really good content, you put this up 2 days ago. Okay. And this is a take from the great Jordan Syatt. I don't know if anyone listens to the Jordan Syatt podcast, great podcast, but he does a segment called You Said, and I love it because it's things that you said, Luke. So, so you said, these are things that I'd focus on as a strength conditioning coach in order to get faster. Okay. Sprint, horizontal force production, quicker ground contact times, and strength training. Now, so you said in order to get faster. I agree with all 4 of those things. I think everyone would agree with those 4 things. And I actually agree on the order of those things. And I don't know if you meant to put them in, in order of like quote unquote importance. I will go out on the limb with you or for you, whichever one you want to do, and say that if you want to get faster, you need to, in this order, sprint, work on, and horizontal force production, vertical, like just work on producing force.
Yeah.
Quicker ground in any direction, like especially you worked with young athletes. Anyone who's worked with young athletes, it's like, God, if we can just get you to improve your force production, like we're doing a good thing. quicker ground contact times, which might be the most unheralded, like overlooked aspect of sports performance. And then strength training is number 4, which do you think like did you think that you put these in a correct order, or were you just like putting out random, like not random, but like were you just like listing the or like things to work on, or did you really try to put these like in an actual like order of importance?
Honestly, no order of importance.
But
That's
you
just like,
kind of did though. But you kind of did
yeah,
though.
it's just, I don't know. It's just, it kind of just came to me like that, you know? But, no, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking too deep into it in terms of like the order, but
Do
like
you
I just didn't
think?
like critically think about the order, you know what I mean? But like, you know, if
Yeah,
you
no, I get it. I
like
get
you're
it.
mentioning it now, so like, you know, like if I looked at it, yeah, it's probably pretty good order.
I know. I saw it and I was like, oh man, we're gonna have a good time on the pod. Um, as so now that you've been in sports performance, you've trained as an athlete, you've been an athlete, like, competitive athlete now, like through Apex. Like I guess this is something that I talk about a lot. We ruffle feathers with this. So again, we have a pretty nice following. People are generally pretty kind to the Parisi Speed School. Do you think? What do you think of strength training now? Having like trained for speed, worked with athletes, like where, like I guess like, and I can give an example if you need to, but like where do you sit with strength training? I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying on this on from an athletic performance standpoint, like I think on this list, strength training is number 4. I think it should be below the rest of the other 3. And people will be like, oh, but you need to be strong to do this and muscle and hypertrophy and developing athletes and this and that. And I'm like, you're right. But I've also like seen, like I think of, and not to like kind of take it on a tangent here, but like I remember when Bill Parisi went down this like giant fascia rabbit hole. He was at a basketball AAU tournament with his boys, and he was watching these kids, like these like high school kids, just absolutely just jam the ball. Crazy athletes, springboards, flying to the rim, and there was no way that these athletes, they were tiny, they're skinny, they're probably
Right.
tough, they're not very relatively strong. Probably, and we always think of like the Kevin Durant couldn't bench his body weight at the NBA combine, all this stuff, right? Like and I've always loved talking to people about it because it's so open ended, and I obviously know it's important. But like strength training, I think when you look at like college strength conditioning, especially, like it's squat rack, it's barbells, it's this and that, and squat your double body weight, bench your body, like all this stuff. And I guess my question is, or my statement is like, I don't know, like there's always more than one way to get to the end result, but like, where do you stand
Right.
now? Like when you work with like an athlete, you have an athlete going through the session, whatever it is, like how much strength training do you do? What kind of strength training do you do? And how important do you think strength training is?
So it definitely depends on like the athlete, of course. So, you know, if you have like
For
a
sure.
powerlifter, strength is like obviously, you know,
That's
got
the
to do it.
sport.
Got it.
That's the sport,
But
right? So, but
you're
that's
right.
again, that's the sport.
Right. But if you look at like a soccer player, basketball player, for example, and like let's just use like those 4 things I said in that post, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
took like a soccer, basketball player, whatever, and you looked at those 4 things, and let's say they got really, really good at all 4 things. It's like which one is gonna have like the most impact in that, like in the actual game itself, you know? Like you could be super strong in the weight room, but it's like, is that gonna make you like good at soccer or like good at basketball? It's like no. Um, but like if you're able to, so I'll start with this. Like number one is like get good at your sport. Like if you're
Specificity is
skillful
always going
at
to
your
be king.
sport, like you're gonna be better than like the guy who's like an athletic freak. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say all things even skill wise, if you have a really strong soccer player, like a really good or like a really fast soccer player, like a good sprinter, it's like the good sprinter is probably going to be your best bet for that sport. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, so I'd say strength training is it's important, obviously, but more so as like a base kind of thing. Like you want to have a base of strength, and then all that other stuff like the quick ground contact, like force production, speed, like that's the main stuff for athletes, in my opinion. It's like, you know, you want them to be strong, of course. Like the stronger they are, the more like it kind of goes hand in hand. Like the stronger they are, the more force they can produce, all that kind of stuff. but it's like you want athletes to be like quick, springy, and like fast. And a lot of that does come from like being strong, but I think training, like strength training, that's a tough question, Casey.
I know. Well, it's open. It's very open ended, and it's very
Yeah,
nuanced. And obviously, we're on a podcast, so we can talk about it. And like people, I always this like at the what really always ruffles feathers. We'll be at like a Parisi certification. I've watched Steve Leo literally do this for almost a decade now, and he tells people good speed training is strength training, and some people can't wrap their brains around that statement. Some people don't understand, like, I think, basic terms of strength conditioning, right? Like force velocity curves and just how it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, I don't think anyone would disagree that plyometrics is a type of strength training, right? Like, you see box jumps and you see pogo jumps and you see different hurdle jumps. Like, those are common things to see in and around an athletic weight room, right? So that's duh, right? Like, they're like, yeah, duh, that makes sense. But if we're like, well, sprinting is a type of strength training. Like, running hill sprints is a type of strength training. But people
yeah,
are like, they think strength, they think like, well, in its most absolute, like visual definition, like a barbell squat, it's always with a barbell squat, barbell bench, bent over row, deadlift, whatever, right? And that everything has its place. And I always ask coaches this because it's like you said, it's a hard question to answer, but it prompts, I think, really good discussion. And it's exactly, I think, what you said of obviously sports skill, number one. Like, you can be fast and strong, but if you can't kick a soccer ball with any type of accuracy, you're probably not going to have a spot on the team much longer, right?
right,
But the
right.
flip side is, how many coaches do you know that will see an athlete show up and just run circles around everyone and go, I can work with that. Like, I can take that really fast kid and I can teach him a couple things. I remember playing lacrosse in high school, and we would literally get these like track dropouts or like cross country dropouts, and these kids that just could run for days, that were so fast. And our coach would just figure out how to make them defensive middies, like wings, like on a face off. Like, they were just like, you go scoop the ball and then give it to this guy, then get off the field. Like, they were just nasty athletes, and they just had
Hmm.
opportunities presented to them because they were nasty athletes. They might not have been strong. They might have been strong. This, that, or the other thing, but having athletic qualities, I love the way you said it, right? Like, you need all of it. You can't live without all of it, or you can only go so far with only having a couple of those traits. But, you can be strong to a point, and then that's it, right? Like, I always find it interesting. I don't know, like, how much you hear about stuff like this, but like Saquon Barkley is a great example. Like, the Penn State videos of Saquon Barkley, and you do a lot of really good, like this is the Ole Miss football team's off-season training. You like break down like what they're doing. But it's always interesting to me when you get these athletes that make it from like Penn State to when he was with the Giants, right? And they'll be like, well, what you did this at Penn State. What do you squat now? And he goes, oh man, like, I haven't done that since. And it's just like, you find like the pros, the people who literally are paid for their bodies and their performance, will openly say like, I don't train like that anymore.
Hmm.
And then they're like, well, I do, because they have, like you say, it's a base of strength. Like, he has a base of strength. He doesn't necessarily need to get stronger. He needs to maintain a certain base of strength. And then they always say like, well, now I do a lot of Pilates or I do a lot of yoga, because they're trying to enhance other qualities that they may or may not
Right.
have or are lacking. So it's always an objective question. It's always a fun discussion that I like to have with people, because there's no right or wrong, right? The answer is, it depends. It always depends.
Yeah,
If you're
100%.
12,
Every single time.
yeah, if you're
Yeah.
12, you're going to benefit from building a base of strength. If
Right.
you're senior year Luke Rapaport hard T, going into soccer, and you're like, you have a base of strength, you may benefit from getting faster or improving ground contact time, because that's going to carry over to how you perform in your sport, based off of what position you play, how many minutes you're going to get, etc. Like, it
Right.
depends. But I love when people want to just argue over something that it's dependent on the person, right? That was like the
Yeah.
first thing
Yeah.
you said, and an awesome answer was, how do I help that person get to where they need to be based off what they need? Like, That's the answer. That's sports performance, people. There you go. You just listen to 50 minutes just to bring it all full circle. But it's a fun one. I was just like asking it to people, like asking like weird questions like that, because you get the little nuggets, you get the little nuances. And if you're a young coach, or if you're just a coach, because we get a lot of people who listen to this podcast that are like sports chiros or sports PTs, or they're like coaches and they like sports performance, they listen to it. Like, just understand and appreciate it's going to be different for every athlete, or different teams of different years. Like, you may have one team that's really slow, you may have one team that's really strong. It's just the way it is. Yeah. All these people, they're people, like they're different. So but it's always fun. When you talk strength training, man, you can ruffle a lot of feathers. And people, some people are very defensive when it comes to the barbell. It does.
Big time. I've seen it.
Yeah. So we're gonna do part 2 in March. The Parisi Summit is in New Jersey, so I will be going down to New Jersey, and that's when I will be crashing Team Moljo. So we have a part 2 on the books. I told you didn't know when it was, Luke. Now you know. It's going to be like the end of March. On my way down, I will be swinging into Team Moljo, or just crashing at John's house. I don't know. As long as John still has he'll still have me. But I appreciate you making time and coming on a Thursday afternoon, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
This is like our first formal conversation too. I feel like you and I could hang out and have a cup of coffee sometime.
Yeah, we could vibe.
Yeah, we'll have to train. I'll try to keep up with all the crazy. I'm old and washed now. I like to run slow and far. I don't like to move fast for short distances. That's not really. I've moved to the other side of the spectrum. So, I actually think I'll be a week out from a 50K in the end of March. So
that sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's not that bad. You're taking the sights. You just got taking the sights. I don't know.
Good scenery. It was in Vermont.
Yeah, it's in southern Vermont. It's got a run amok 50K. It's gonna be cold as all get up, but it'll be a good time. Appreciate you, Luke. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course.